What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the St. Vitus basement, and today we are here with Venom Prison. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's so awesome to have you here, Samsara, which came out back in March of this year. Do you just want to talk about how the making of this record was and the recording and all that fun stuff? Who wants to go first?
Well, the making of it, I mean, Ash and I spent a long time writing. We were kind of writing separately. We both got home studios set up, so we were writing on our own and meeting literally every weekend, sort of in between tours. And yeah, it was a pretty intense process, really. Just bringing ideas to each other, bouncing off, scrapping songs, starting again, expanding. Just really trying to push ourselves to do more than Animus. We wanted it to be more dynamic, wanted it to be more aggressive, and not too experimental. So it's sort of not Venom Prison. We still wanted it to be as abrasive as what Animus had, but just kind of a bit extra. Just evolve from it basically, and I think we achieved that.
Awesome.
Yeah, we basically wanted to show that we've evolved as a band and as people, and that I know the guys have been frantically playing guitar this whole time, especially when they were writing, and I do think that it shows quite well how far they've got as musicians. And for me personally, writing was waiting for them to kind of finish up a song, because they would send it over to everyone so we can listen to it, give them some feedback on it. And then once they told me that this song is almost ready or ready to go, then I would start writing lyrics for those songs.
Interesting. You kind of just in a way answered this, but this wasn't intended to just be like a follow-up to Animus, right? You kind of wanted to, I guess, abandon everything you've done in the first record, or was there anything kind of carry it over from Animus into Samsara?
I definitely think we carried things over, don't you think?
Yeah, we still wanted to have those heavy breakdowns. We still wanted those fast sections, those blast beats. We just wanted to show that we could do more than just what Animus had to offer.
We basically wanted to take what we really liked about Animus while we wrote it and while we played it, because we toured with that record for almost 3 years. We got to know it really well, even though we wrote it. It's a bit different when you play it a lot as well, because then you just get so familiar with it, and you just know exactly what you like about it, what other people like about it. And we just wanted to take what we knew worked, put it into Samsara, and then evolve it by make it more aggressive, a little bit more technical. I'd say vocally and lyrically it's evolved quite a lot as well, personally. So yeah, it was really hard writing this, don't you think? Because We've been writing this record in between tours, especially for the guys. It was really hard because they come up with the whole songs. I just write the lyrics. But
yeah, we were taking our interface on tour with our laptops. While we were on tour, we were literally any quiet green room where there was power and we could get our laptops out without being disturbed. We were still working and.
Yeah. Unlike this venue, backstage is really just right behind the amplifiers. So.
Perfect.
Now, one thing I kind of found unique about this particular record is I thought, kind of like what you said, there's elements that people who liked Animus could appreciate on this record. But when you said that you wanted things to be a little bit more technical, was there a preconceived idea in the evolution, we have to sound more like this, or was there stuff that kind of came naturally? Was this more of a natural evolution?
Musically, I think it's quite natural for us, because even though Ash and I are both fans of aggressive and heavy music and extreme metal, we're also fans of other genres as well. Ash is quite into shoegaze and a bunch of other stuff, some indie, some more experimental stuff. You'll probably see him wearing a Placebo shirt at some point on this tour.
Placebo is awesome.
I'm a big fan of ISIS, and like I was saying to you earlier, I'm a big fan of building pedal boards to make your guitar sound like a synth. So it was quite natural, really, from that side of things. Yeah.
Interesting. One question I have specifically for you, Larissa, is that you mentioned that you write the lyrics over the music, so you need music to come up with lyrics. But is there ever a time where you have a concept or a subject matter in mind, and maybe the band can write according to that?
It's never really happened in that way, because I feel like I need at least to hear a certain amount of songs to get into the mood of what the record is going to sound like. I like to conceptualize things. I like them to link with each other. I like to tell a story throughout the whole record. That's what I tried to do with Animus, and that's what I did with Samsara as well. I do come up with ideas when I've listened to some of the demos that the guys have written, and then I get ideas about what I can write. Also things just when I don't know, walk around, when I read, when I see something that I think, oh, this is really interesting, I could write about this. And then I just do some more research in it, and then I just put everything together. But I do need to feel what it's going to sound like, because that's what sets the idea into my head.
So the feeling doesn't necessarily like come naturally. You kind of have to like put yourself in a certain place at a certain time in order to really get into the music.
Yeah, I like to connect with the song, because when they write it, they feel something, and I kind of want to try and feel the same thing they were feeling. So for me, music has a lot to do with emotions, and when I listen to a song, especially a song that they write and that I will write, I like to put a part of me into it, and if I feel a certain way about the song that I'm listening to, then I'm going to write about how I feel while I'm listening to, if that makes sense. And sometimes it just happens that when I have this certain feeling, like, I don't know, let's say, oh, this is really moody, and then an idea about what the theme for this mood could be. Yeah.
Do you like to leave the lyrics open to interpretation, or are you trying to maybe engage the listener into a story and maybe get them to see things from your point of view?
Kind of both. I like to play with them. I do like when things are really open for interpretation, because I think it makes people think about what you're actually trying to say a bit more, because if you don't tell them, okay, things are like this, and like this, but you just lead them into thinking a certain way, if that makes sense. So they think that they came to the conclusion that this song is about this, when it's actually about this, but I just led them that way. So I feel like people will have more of a connection if they can think about it a bit more.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, Ben, one question I have specifically for you is, being that you are such a guitar-driven band, and that you have to, you're constantly writing riffs, is there like a theoretical element that you follow? Like, are you working off of like a specific chord progression or a certain scale mode, or is a lot of the guitar work you come up with rather improvised?
I'd say improvised. I don't think. No, we've never thought about a particular scale. I don't think I could even. I could tell you piano scales. I couldn't. If you told me to play a scale on a guitar, I just wouldn't be able to. But I could do it on a piano. But no, it's just Ash and I. It usually starts with like a riff. It's all based off, and it's similar to what Larissa was saying. If a riff can give you a feeling, I'd rather not know about the music theory behind it. Mm-hmm. Maybe a bit of both in some things. So when it comes to sort of really expanding on some dramatic section, yeah, a bit of music theory is helpful to know. And Ash and I have I'd say a fairly decent knowledge of that, but we tend to ignore it most of the time. I think if you go within a sort of framework of music theory or a scale or a chord shape, it kind of limits you, really.
Yeah. I had that discussion. I mean, total apples and oranges artist, but I interviewed Tarja, or as everybody says, Tarja. But like she says, she has a classical background and everything, and while it helped her, develop a voice and find herself, if she only stuck with that, she never would have discovered what she could have done in Nightwish and her solo stuff and all that. So.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I went to music school. I did piano, and I even did choral singing for like quite a while. So I mean, maybe the music theory and like 5-part vocal harmonies have some kind of influence on some of our dramatic sections. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's just if you feel a riff and you like it, or you like a section, then yeah, I think you just have to feel something from it. If you don't feel anything from it, don't bother.
Just watch Venom Prison becoming a gospel choir.
Hell yeah.
I wish.
Sing Christmas carols door to door in the style that you do now.
I mean, it worked for Batushka for a while, right?
There you go. I have two more questions for you, if that's cool. But from watching live videos of how you guys play and everything, like I really think that seeing you live is a completely different experience than just listening to the album. And I think same could be said for just about every other band, regardless of how well they're executing it live as they do on the album. What I find unique is, are you putting just as much energy into your studio presence as you are when you are on stage, or is it a completely different state of mind or process executing your songs in the studio versus like on stage?
That's a hard question. For me personally, I feel that I sound better and I am more into the whole thing while I'm playing. Like I'm more present when we're playing live than I am in the studio. I kind of feel a little bit isolated sometimes when I'm in the studio, and that's why, in my opinion, the vocals sound a little bit different on the record than they do in real life when we play. I feel more comfortable on stage than in the studio. I'm not sure about the guys.
Yeah, I think it's two different goals. A show, you want to deliver the best possible performance. In the studio, you want to deliver the best possible record. You're not confined by just having two guitars. In the studio, you've got the luxury of having as many as you want.
50.
Within reason, yeah. So, no, different goals, but... yeah, that's an interesting question. I like that one. Yeah.
Because I think for us personally, because most of us come from a hardcore punk DIY background, we just feel like we need to put the energy into the music while we play, and I don't know, it's important for me to feel it. It's all about feeling, really, isn't it? It's just,
definitely.
It's just, I want to feel what I felt when I wrote it. I want to feel what I felt when I recorded it, and I want to just burst it out. And yeah.
Sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes there's parts when you record it in the studio and you're like, oh yeah, this bit's gonna translate brilliant when you play a show. But then sometimes it's like a completely different section that gets the crowd moving. It's like, oh, I didn't hear that coming in the studio, but it connects differently when you play a show. So it's just two very different contexts.
Yeah, and I find, especially with, like you mentioned, like the hardcore background, like I find, like whether I'm listening to an old school hardcore band like Agnostic Front or Cro-Mags, or like a more new school hardcore band like Code Orange or Harm's Way or Employed to Serve, who I really hope comes to the U.S. soon. Please pass the message on to them.
I will.
But like, I feel like that is, I find it much more enjoyable to see it live because of the crowd interaction. Everybody's kicking the crap out of each other in the pit, than like just listening to it on the street. I mean, it's prevents you from killing people on the subway, but like I feel like there's such a connection with the type of music that you have live that you just aren't getting the full experience just by simply listening to it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Yeah.
And the final question I want to ask you is, because it's my favorite question to ask every artist, because it's always the hardest question. How do you know? I want you both to answer too. How do you know when a song is done?
It's never done.
Okay, that's the easiest. I get that 9 times out of 10.
I don't think you do. I don't know. That's a good question. It depends on the song. I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know. Sometimes you just have this goal of having a certain structure, and if you completed the structure and you listen back to it and it satisfies you, then I think then it's done.
I just hate songs that fade out. Like, I feel that's such a cop out. Have we even got any songs that fade out?
Oh, that like you don't get
not.
quieter.
Yeah,
on the way
yeah.
out.
We never had
I don't
anything
think
like
we
that,
have
I think.
anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I nearly put my foot in it. Yeah, if you're fading out a song, it's not finished.
Yeah.
That's my
and
answer.
you just have like the same like outro chorus repeating
Yeah,
like 50
like-
times. It just you clearly copied and pasted it in Pro Tools and then just lower the volume of each of copy.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's going to be a brutal show tonight. Is there just anything else for the Samsara record cycle you would like to promote for the rest of 2019 or going into 2020?
I don't really know. I think this tour, so this US tour, is pretty much the last tour of the year for us. So we're quite excited about that.
Yeah, check it out. We're on tour with Homewrecker. We're on tour with Black Mass and Joy, and Great American Ghost are joining us as well soon. And then we have one festival performance in November, Damnation Festival, a festival in Leeds, UK. We got something special lined up for that, something a little bit different. I don't want to give too much away, but the instrumentation may change a little bit.
This will be uploaded by midnight, so if it hasn't been announced,
Oh, okay.
don't promote it.
So yeah, there'll be something slightly different.
Awesome.
Yeah, we have a surprise there. So
I like surprises. All right, thank you guys. Everybody, we are here with Venom Prison. Be sure to pick up Samsara if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.